Month of May is brought to you by Peak. Peak original equipment technology is formulated with the same corrosion inhibiting technology that protected your vehicle when it left the factory. It provides excellent protection against rust and corrosion to all cooling system metals, including aluminum, and is fully compatible with other extended life coolants. With its line of premium 50/50 pre-diluted and concentrated coolant specifically designed to match the technology and color requirements of your specific vehicle, and color cues on the packaging and label in a list of covered vehicles make it easy to identify the right match for your vehicle. Find out more information about all Peak antifreeze and coolants at peakauto.com. And Drag Race Bracket Bonanza, the first dynamic competition for drag racing fans. Go to dragracebracketbonanza.com. It's free. When the fields are set on Saturday night at the Route 66 Nationals presented by Peak, pick all your round-by-round winners in all 4 pro categories. Sign up at dragracebracketbonanza.com at the link below. Man, oh man, I gotta say, it is good to be back. The last time I was at an NHRA event was back at the season opener for the Gator Nationals down at Gainesville Raceway. About 2 months later, during the month of May, in the run-up for the Indianapolis 500, we are here now for the Route 66 Nationals. This was a race that I wanted to go to when they announced it last year, and I wasn't able to go because we had just started the channel, but of course now we are able to come here thanks to the incredible sponsors like we have with Peak and Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. Please go support them for all that they do, because again, if it wasn't for them, I honestly would not be here right now. It was because of them that we were able to even excuse to make this trip happen, and they're going to be a big help come later in the year when we want to go to some of the other races during the season, the summer swing of the season. We got a lot of interviews. We got some really good highlights from some of the number 1 qualifiers as well as a special driver. So let's go straight into our qualifying recap. In Pro Stock Motorcycle, Matt Smith, number 1 qualifier to end day 1. This was the same story that we saw back at the Charlotte 4-Wide Nationals. It looks as though that maybe Matt Smith has finally turned the corner on that bike. He has struggled to really catch up to him because of the fact he took a season off when he rode Suzuki. He did not have that year of 2023 to really do some R&D work to catch up to them with that Buell V-twin that he's been using. Now he's back on that Buell. It's taken him only 2 races to catch up. He now has a number 1 qualifying spot, but my theory right now is that may not be the case. Looking at both the qualifying runs for the Advanced Heinz bikes, it wasn't really so much of a thing as Matt Smith was faster, even though he really was. I'm not going to try and discredit him in the slightest, but it also comes down to the fact Gage Herrera did not have that good of a run in both sessions. Neither did Richard Gadsden. So I think it's going to be the same scenario of what we saw back at Charlotte for the 4-wide, where he doesn't do so good on Friday, but come Saturday, he's going to come swinging for that Matt Smith Racing V-twin Buell. So again, Matt Smith, number 1 qualifier, 6.708. Gage Herrera in second with a 7.34. Ellie Tonglet, the other Advanced Heinz bike, a 7.72. Angie Smith in fourth with a 7.78. Hector Arana rounds out the top 5. John Holland 6. Chase Vance 7th. Steve Johnson in 8th. Mark Ingerson rounds out 9th. Richard Gadsden in 10th. Chris Bostick in 11th. Ron Torno. Weird thing that happened today, by the way, I want to throw this out there. Ron Torno, for some reason, has a guy in a rat costume that's dancing on the starting line. I don't know where that came from. It really confused a lot of the people in the media center, but I'm going to be honest, it's a welcome surprise, because maybe people say not a lot of people talking about Ron Torno. Well, we're talking about him now. He qualifies back in 12th. Ryan Ayler in 13th. 14th, you're going to find John Evaristo. 15th is Wesley Wells. 16th is E.G. Kawakami. And 17th, and currently not qualified for the show, is Lance Bonham. In Pro Stock, number 1 qualifier, Erica Enders, looking for that 50th win. Could possibly have it happen at the track where she won her first, I believe, just about 10 years ago. She takes number 1 qualifying honors with a 6.548. Troy Coughlin Jr., really impressive run up to second. He was quick in both rounds. That Jegs machine looks really fast. Greg Anderson 3rd, Jake Coughlin Jr. in 4th, Aaron Stanfield 5th, Christian Quadras 6th, Dallas Glenn in 7th. Jerry Don Tucker rounds out the top half of the field. In 9th, you'll find David Quadra. 10th, Eric Latino. 11th, Matt Harford. 12th, Fernando Quadra Jr. 13th, Chris McGahey. 14th, Derek Kramer, who had an interesting incident in Q1. The parachutes fell out during the burnout. They were lucky enough to have the officials and the race team signal him in time to tell him to shut the car off, because he just about ran over his parachutes. He rounds out in 14th after a good run in Q2. Kenny Delco 15th, and then last car in so far is Mason McGahey. John DeFlorian right now driving Matt Hartford's 2024 car. Well, Matt Hartford went back to the 2023 car. I guess they're going to do some R&D work and they're going to use him to do it. He currently finds himself 17th after not being able to get it running in Q1 due to the car shutting off. And Sienna Wildgus in 18th. They also did the Pro Stock All-Star call-out. And here's how your lineup looks. Eric Anders with the first one out. She goes straight for the throat, calls out Greg Anderson. Dallas Glenn calls out Troy Coughlin Jr. Aaron Stanfield calls out Matt Hartford. And then by default, Christian Quadra and Derek Kramer will be the last pair. In funny car, Austin Prock, a very impressive run up to the top. He's still getting used to this car. He does not look like a rookie to me. Number one qualifier so far with a 3.907. Bob Taskett III had a very disappointing run in Q1, comes out swinging first car out in Q2. He could have easily possibly had a chance at going for that 340 mile an hour if they had enough data coming from the Q1 run, but they had not enough due to the fact they had to shut the car off early, so they had to play it safe. He finds himself in second. Paul Lee third, John Force in fourth, Lex DeJoria in fifth, Ron Capps sixth, Blake Alexander with another impressive top half result. He rounds out seventh, and Cruz Pedregon had a really good run in Q1, rounded out second by the end of Q1, and then come Q2, they just started running the ropes on him, and he ended up falling back around the top end of the top half. Daniel Wilkerson rounds out ninth. Huge explosion in Q2, destroyed the car. Supercharger laid crooked across the hood. He climbed out of the car and was irate with what happened because of the fact that they destroyed that thing. Their team's currently going to be in the back thrashing to get that thing replaced for tomorrow. Chad Green rounds out 10th. Matt Hagan back in 11th. J.R. Todd 12th. Buddy Hull 13th. Bobby Bodie 14th. Dave Richards 15th. Jack Wyatt is the last car in 16th, and Justin Schrieffer is the one man out. And then lastly, probably the biggest story of them all in Top Fuel, the hometown boy, the independent team with his family behind his back, TJ Zizzo. We had some very interesting comments at his post-race press conference. Got very emotional because of how close he was with Don Schumacher, which I'll talk about here in a minute. Just an incredible story for this guy. This is an independent team that is running up against the juggernauts of the sport, against the guys like TSR, Antron Brown, like Capco, like Rick Ware, like Skag. This is a team that, while we always talk about anybody can win these things, theoretically shouldn't. This is on the same level of, say, Dan Weldon with Brian Hurd or Kurt Bagajanian. This is not supposed to happen, but it can and it does because of how hard that team works and how hard they thrive and how good they are at the track. Another man good at this track, Clay Milliken, rounds out second, your reigning winner from last year. Doug Coletta third. His teammate Sean Langdon fourth, Sean Reed in the impressive run in fifth, Antron Brown sixth, Steve Torrance seventh, Tony Schumacher in eighth. On the bottom half, we're going to find Dan Mercier, Billy Torrance, Jasmine Salinas, Josh Hart back in 12th. Cody Crone with a really good run in Q2 finds himself up in 13th. Justin Ashley, not so good, finds himself back in 14th. Kyle Wurzel had issues in Q1, comes back for Q2. He now sits in the show in 15th. And then Tony Stewart is right now the last car in. And then again, as always with Top Fuel, it gets really interesting for the people not in the show. Doug Foley not in the show. Krista Baldwin, Luigi Novelli not in the show in his return race. Brittany Force is going to be the big one with the Peak sponsorship, the sponsor of the race and of this channel. Not in the show going into Saturday. She has 2 more rounds of qualifying to find herself into the field. And Travis Shoemaker, who was unable to make a run in Q1, now finds himself last on the grid. I didn't mention this at the beginning, but I do want to give a shout out to this. At the beginning of the day, NHRA, they announced this a couple months ago that they're going to do this, a celebration of life in the tent just behind me over there to celebrate the life of Don Schumacher in his hometown of Chicago. It was an absolutely incredible event to be a part of and watch. They had opening remarks from Brian Lone to give a really emotional, I would say, eulogy to Don Schumacher, who has meant so much to this sport, to this entire series, and to this art of drag racing. And then they had another good speech from the Racers for Christ group, followed by a moment of silence. And then right after that, they had the unveiling of the special scheme that Tony would be driving this weekend in honor of his father. A gorgeous Top Fuel dragster with his name adoring the side, with I believe it said the shoe on the front wing. Just an absolutely incredible event. Tony Schumacher right now looks really strong going into this weekend. He could also be a potential winner of this race with how good he's performed in the early part of the season. Imagine the storylines if Tony Schumacher could get his return win in HRA in that car in his dad's hometown on the weekend where they celebrate his life. it would just be an incredible storyline. But of course, like with guys like TJ Zizzo and Clay Milliken along, there's a lot of good stories that could come out of this weekend. Let's get into the post-race interviews, as well as an interview with another driver, and wrap it up here from Chicago. But first, as always, let's hear a word from our sponsor, Peak Products.
Protect your vehicle with Peak Original Equipment Technology. Our formulas match the vehicle manufacturer's technology requirements so that we have the perfect match for every vehicle.
Matt Smith, 102. 6,708. 201 miles an hour. Matt Smith was just 102 at the 60-foot clock. Greg Anderson with better numbers low. Erica with better numbers down there. 6.548. 209, and Erica goes back to the top. 3.907, 332 miles an hour, and Jason Logan will not be on Dancing with the Stars. Austin Prock goes back to the top. He puts Cornwell and Chevrolet number 1. How about 373? Hey, Chicago, TJ's back on top. 3.736, 331 miles an hour. Zizou, number 1. Justin Ashley goes 413, 213 miles an hour, shutting off early. And TJ at his home race, his season debut, hey, he's got 6 points. He can climb his way into the countdown to the championship if he keeps this up.
You've been working very hard at trying to get this turnaround to where you can go catch up with the Vance and Hines bike, especially having to take a year off and losing that year on Impossible Fuel and riding the Suzuki. After only being 2 races in, you're already now catching up with them. How much of a satisfaction does that give you, knowing that you're already this somewhat early into the season and you've caught up to these guys and can give them a run for their money?
Well, hopefully we are caught up. You know, hopefully they just didn't make a bad run or something like that. So tomorrow's another day, and we'll see how it goes. But I can tell you this: we have tested more than our team has tested more than the whole Pro Stock Motor class combined since Gainesville, and it shows because we're running better, and that's what it took. We spent a lot of money to do this, and even we were at Indy for 2 days and got rained out, so we were there to test 2 more days. So, but all in all, we're learning. We're trying to make improvements. We're trying to go faster, and we are closing that gap. And hopefully we've got it close enough now to where we can win and just put pressure on him.
Obviously, this is the track where you got your first win. You just talked about the meaning it would have for the 50th. Just kind of explain for people who may be new to the sport and may not understand. Does it kind of explain just what it is about Chicago that means so much to you, especially getting to come back to this racetrack and to potentially win the call out tomorrow?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, racing Super Comp here when it first opened, obviously, and then it took 7 years and 7 final rounds before we finally got that Pro Stock victory here. And I remember coming up here after we won and did everything down track. Before the winner's circle, we came into the press room and I was in the middle of doing interviews and Bob Glidden called my cell phone. So kind of a cool, fun story, but I was like, I have to take this. So he's obviously a legend and somebody that meant a lot to me throughout my career, became a huge friend and supporter over the years. And so that's a really fond memory here as well. But the work that goes on behind the scenes that people don't focus on or tend to forget about, like it's hard and it's gut-wrenching, and it's 7 years is a long time to go winless. So to finally get that first one here, I remember it was a rain delay. We finished really late. We ate at Denny's, like moons over Miami for breakfast at like midnight, and had to change my flight and flew home the following day. But just kind of like one of those those weekends that you dream about your whole career and that you sacrifice everything for. So very, very meaningful. I know that's a long answer to your question, but here we are just 12 short years later gunning for our 50th. So full circle.
One of the questions I asked Matt Hagan earlier today was about the competition level within this class alone. You came from a class last year that was as competitive as it could ever get. Now you come over here, we already have the titans of Matt Hagan and Ron Capps, but now you have to deal with Bob Taskett, Chad Green, and Paul Lee. What is that like trying to deal with those guys? J.R. Todd. What's it like trying to compete against those guys, knowing that you have about 5 or 6 guys that are all aiming straight for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. You know, we're out here for the competition, and those guys are all really talented race car drivers and have really good race cars underneath them. So, I mean, you saw up close, it was a few thou separating me and Taskett. And then, again, in qualifying, it's like every weekend we're just, you know, nitpicking a thou here, thou there, and that's the difference between either a win light or a #1 qualifier. So, love the competition and, you know, love what I'm doing right now.
So obviously you're running a single car operation, doing this on your own with your family and your friends behind you. To come out here and not only go fast, be #1 when you face up against the titans of the sport, you know, guys like Rick Ware Racing, guys like Steve Torrance Racing, Antron Brown, and so forth. Just how much of a sense of pride does that give you? You see the hard work pay off the way that it has, and see you stand on top of the mountain at the end of the day with your family by your side.
Brings a tear to my eye. It really does. I mean, as that car is shutting down, it brings a tear to my eye. By the way, nice hat.
Thank you.
Peak got us here, right? Like, we were sponsored by them forever, and I appreciate their effort that they put into our team so we could be here today with Rust-Oleum. But it's what it's about. You know, there's opportunities to do all kinds of things in this world, but when you could do them with your family, your friends, team members who've been with us for 30 years plus, that's something very special.
TJ spoke with Ron and Mike on the starting line, your crew chiefs, and Mike was a little emotional talking about Don, reflecting on Don Schumacher. Obviously, we've got the celebration of life. Tony's got a Don Schumacher car, and Mike said that Don wanted you to win a race, and he said that Don, that you didn't get to deliver that for Don, but to be able to run well here this weekend, just reflect a little bit on that. What would it mean to be able to deliver that?
Yeah, I mean, as you can see, just looking at my eyes, right? Joe, you could look into my eyes and see that they're welling up. You know, last year we came here, brand new car, brand new everything. We came off the trailer, we struggled. Race day, we come out here and run career best numbers, 371, 329. The only thing that stalled us that day, semi-final round against Josh Hart, was my right foot. That was it. It was because I wasn't comfortable in the car yet. There was all kinds of things with this right foot that I didn't get acclimated to that car. Don's car that he supplied us is completely different than a McKinney car that I drove. So I wasn't comfortable in there. And he was there that day. He was here. He was enjoying the moment. He spent time with my wife, my kids, my dad. It was fantastic. I saw a huge smile on his face. And when we lost the semifinal round, you know, he's a very competitive person. And he just patted me on the back and said, hey, let's get him next time. You know, that was his spirit. He saw the potential. He saw where we were going. And I'm blessed. I really am, Joe. I'm blessed to know someone and have known someone. And I don't even want to say it past tense. I don't. You know? I know he's looking down at us right now. It's super.
And
All right, Clay, you're returning to Chicago. This track has been very nice to you. You made you start here back in '99. You've won here twice, most recently last year. What are the emotions like getting to return to Route 66?
Oh, I'll tell you what, this place has always been special to me. Obviously, my very first ever Top Fuel race being here. Winning on the 20th anniversary of me being a Top Fuel guy and this racetrack's anniversary was awesome. And then follow it up. Year 25 for me and the racetrack. We won it again. So we're going to do our dangest to try to repeat here. I don't know how I'm going to turn a 26 into any kind of cool anniversary number, but I love this place. It's awesome that it's back open. You know, I'm proud the NHRA took the steps to make that happen because It's Route 66. You can't beat that.
And then obviously at the start of this year, you guys still had those gremlins that were following you from last year. Over the course of the season so far, you guys have been able to turn that around and start chugging those numbers like we saw from you around this time last year. My biggest question for you right now is, what did you guys have to do, you, Jimmo, and Nikki, have to do to get these guys to continue to buy into this mentality of what you're selling and believe in the process that you guys are going to keep turning this around and get back to where you guys were?
Well, I got to tell you, if you look at the entire season, we started the year at Bradenton, #1 qualifier. We run big speeds, and we went to the final round of the $250,000 to win All-Star Shootout. So our struggles really started after that, and we went down a path of tuning and putting things together that the car didn't like. You got to listen to the car, and it just took us a couple races to get back on the path we were at Bradenton, and we kind of showed that at Vegas, and then followed that up with a runner-up at Charlotte. This thing's starting to run big speed. The ETs are right there with it, so I'm ready. Last year we were a hot weather car. Now I think we can hit the home run ball as well.
And then speaking of the hot weather car, you're going to be coming into these really hot summer months. You're looking at Bristol, you're looking at Virginia, now Norwalk, and then you're going to head out west towards Sonoma and Seattle. What is the game plan going to be for you guys as you head out there, especially considering you don't have the western swing, but man, oh man, does it feel like it, especially come next month?
Oh, well, we showed last year we know how to run when it's hot. We struggled when it was not hot. So I like our chances when it's hot outside, like it is here today. But again, I think we're getting to the point where we can hit the home run ball and we can get the base hit, and just basically make this car go down the racetrack in any conditions. And that's how you win races. You got to be consistent in all the conditions, and that's how you end up finishing the year real well in points. And last year we were good in weird conditions and not when it was cool outside. So I think we're getting to the point we got both, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the season.
And then one of the things I'm interested in too is you debuted this new paint scheme, which has been kind of a reoccurring thing. You had the Cletus car, you've ran the Edelbrock car in the past. I believe your new car right now is an inverse of last year's. But I'm curious, what was the deal put together to get this done for Chicago, to have this scheme put together?
Well, we've been working with Arrowhead Brass for the last couple of years, and they have a lot of their customers in this area, so it just made sense. Car looks awesome. The people at Arrowhead are great. We got Champion Irrigation, which they work together with Arrowhead all the time, and they've got a lot of people that'll be coming out this weekend. And I hope that for a lot of them, it's their first time experiencing Top Fuel, because once they come and see it, they're fans for life. And it's really fantastic bringing new sponsors into the sport and introducing them to NHRA drag racing. If you see Nitro, you feel Nitro, you hear Nitro, you're a fan.
And then the last question I got for you, last year around the month of May, you went down to Indianapolis, you got to experience your first Indianapolis 500. Is that the same plan this year? Can NHRA fans expect to see you down at Indy for the month of May? And as well, maybe a reunion with a certain person who works on one of those cars now?
Well, you never know. That's one thing about Rick Ware. Rick, he is wide open. He doesn't stop. I don't think the guy ever sleeps. I found out I was going to the 24 Hours of Daytona about 24 hours before I went. Same thing with the Indianapolis 500. When an idea hits him, he runs with it. So if there's a reason that he needs me to be there, I'll be there. And obviously you're talking about Kaylin. I called her America's Clutch Girl. They're doing great. She's over there with Chip Ganassi Racing. Obviously, if you're with Ganassi Racing in the IndyCar world, you're going to get some wins. So who knows? I might be at the 500 or I may not. At this moment, I have no idea.
Well, I believe right now she's currently having one of the top 10 fastest 4-lap averages so far on Fast Friday. So who knows? Maybe she's finally going to be the person that helps get Scott Dixon that second win. All right, Clay, thank you for your time. Good luck this week, and hopefully we see you around Indianapolis.
Look forward to it, man. Thanks for having me.
And that is going to wrap it up here for Friday night at the Chicago Route 66 Nationals. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content that we have done so far, not just here in Chicago, but as well over in Indianapolis for the month of May with the Indy Grand Prix, with the craziness that is the Indianapolis 500. We had an incredible video last night of the chaos that happened with Marcus Ericsson and Linus Lundqvist. There's going to be another video coming out here shortly about the chaos that took place today. We had snakes with getting their heads ran over. We had a car flip. We had engines blow one day before qualifying for the Indianapolis 500. There's going to be a lot of content, not just from here, but also 3 hours south of here in Indianapolis, as Kevin goes and covers the 108th running of the Indianapolis 500 as they go through pole weekend. We're going to have a lot of content for you guys, so if you enjoy what we're doing, be sure to subscribe to the channel today. Be sure to like this video. Be sure to comment. Be sure to share with everybody you know, to not just get them exposed to the world of drag racing, but also the world of open wheel racing for the greatest spectacle in racing. Be sure to follow us on social media pages down below. MightyMac03 on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Be sure to please support our sponsors, Peak Auto. Buy their antifreeze for your cars. It's the best one you're going to find, as well as Drag Race Bracket Bonanza. It is a free-to-play game. It is an incredible game to be a part of. It makes every single round matter, and drivers that you would not be paying attention to any other day of the week, that becomes just as important as those Tony Schumacher, Justin Ashley round 1 pairings. So it is a very fun game to play. It is free to play, it's free to sign up, and there's a lot of cool prizes on the line every single week. And Elon is such a hard worker to try and make that all work. So a huge hats off to him for what he's been able to do. So please go support him, go play that game. And until Saturday night, this has been Mighty Mac, and I will see you next time. But to close it out, I'm going to play you a word from the Don Schumacher Memorial.
Thank you, Brian. You know, before we go into our moment of silence, in the book of Philippians, chapter 1, verse 3, the Apostle Paul wrote this about some people that lived in the town of Philippi, and he said, "I thank my God every time that I remember you." So this morning, as we gather together and we take time for this moment of silence, I want each of us to take time to be thankful and to think about what Don meant to each and every one of us, individually and as a community and as a sport. He was a very passionate man, but he was also very level-headed. You know, he may have been known as the Don, but he was also a husband, a businessman, and a big champion for our sport. But as his son Tony told me just the other night, he also said he was also a great dad. God gave Don very many talents, and Don used those talents to the best of his abilities. And I believe that he left this world a much better place than he found it. So would you all join me now as we take a moment for a moment of silence for Don Schumacher.
You lost 2 months ago.